We're with John Jeckovich, Chapter 3 of his book, Their Mother's Son, and we're on page 33, and that chapter is entitled, You're in the Army, and we're just going to sit back before I start reading Mr. Jeckovich's book. He's looking at a book of different planes from the war, and we're just going to sit back and watch him page through this book, and if he has any comments on what he sees. Any comments you might have, just tell us what you're thinking.
1916.
That must be World War I. Hey John, when you joined the Army, did you ever think you were going to fly planes?
No.
I like those different uniforms.
Huh?
Look at those different uniforms, how nice they are.
What are you seeing there, John?
Huh?
What are you seeing? What are you seeing there?
Pilots' uniforms.
Beautiful.
Uniforms of different pilots from different countries.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting.
They don't want a lot of uniforms, boy. Look at that.
But a lot of detail in those uniforms. A lot of pride.
Did you ever have a dress uniform?
A what?
Like a real fancy Army uniform?
No. Dress a uniform of either fatigues or standard.
Is that excellent? Yeah. What is that? Thank you.
Yeah, they used to throw that stuff out of the airplane,
Yeah,
like spears.
yeah. That's interesting.
I don't recognize any of these.
are you seeing there, John?
Huh?
What's on that page?
Huh?
What's on that page?
The guy shooting through the airplane.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. This is my phone, just kind of everything. Chocolate ice cream? To go? Hi. Okay, for you? Chocolate. Okay.
Huh?
Go ahead.
What do you see there?
Huh?
What do you see there?
These guys are at a restaurant, these navigators.
Oh, wow. Looks like a fancy table.
We end dinner at 6:30, so everybody is booked. So I'm heading out in the next few minutes, but I do want to do that and see if we want to arrange anything else.
Would you give me a spoon?
Oh, yeah, of course. That might be helpful.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What are you doing, Dave?
Nothing, I'm just listening.
Do you have one that big? Spoon that big?
Seriously, you guys freaking bird.
Yes.
Ice cream is so good.
Yeah. Yes. It's the first thing I know.
What do you see now, John? What are you seeing now?
Right.
What's on that picture?
Those Italians getting shot up.
All right, I want you to keep looking at the book. Don't put the book away, and I'm gonna start reading. Anything you find you want to comment on in that book, let me know. Here we go. Chapter 3, you're in the Army, June 23rd, 2024. John Jeckovich was sent over to Fort Sam Houston, officially designated in 1890. Incidentally, the fort became the birth date of the military aviation in March of 1910. In 1916, John Pershing had led the border expedition against Pancho Villa from the Fort Houston. With the advent of World War I, the fort was expanded to its present area of 3,300 miles. I believe the book you're looking at now is the history of World War I, and that coincides with Fort Sam Houston being expanded for World War I.
Yeah.
Very interesting. During the same period, it became the 4th Army headquarters for the Department of Army.
Fifth Army, huh?
It also contained the Brooke Medical Center, one of the world's largest medical facilities. The center took care of seriously wounded and injured servicemen from both theaters of operation. Next to Brooke is the U.S. Army Medical Museum, which contains a history of the Army Medical Department. Also close by is the Fort Sam Houston Museum, which presents a history of the fort through artifacts and exhibits. Strangely enough, Lakeland Air Force Base was only 12 short miles southwest of Fort Sam Houston. This was to be a designation for training with the Air Corps. It was rumored that they were in a holding pattern, just waiting for the opportune time to transfer to Lakeland. The rumor had some validity, but since most of the people who transferred down here were the same group from Camp Upton. We were building in a permanent cream-colored stucco-type building with bright red tile roofs. Each individual section rooms contained high ceilings from floor-to-ceiling windows. Each room accompanied approximately 30 to 40 men. All the structures were old and some dating back to 1890, but they were well kept and clean. At the next morning's orientation session, we were told that we're in the 508th Combat Military Police Department and that our training would be commenced at once. After the orientation, we marched 3/4 of a mile to the base drill field. While marching there, we could not help but noticing that we were in the center of town. There were civilians all about, cars whisking by on the roads, and a regular city atmosphere prevailed. This was due to the fact that the fort bordered two sides of the city of San Antonio, which made it very pleasant from our perspective.
What's that?
Fort Sam Houston, it was basically in the middle of the city, which was nice. Our daily routine had changed considerably from what we had become accustomed to at Uptown. Reveille was out 0600 hours and breakfast 0700 hours.
13 minutes.
After breakfast, we would march to the drill field for lectures of the various weapons, namely carbines, rifles, and pistols. At lunchtime, we marched back to our quarters, and about half an hour for lunch. We usually met at the Post Theater for various lectures and movies covering a wide range of topics. After that period, we were free to roam to the post and sections of San Antonio that were in the general confines of the post. Lights were out at 2200 hours. I did not cultivate any strong or lasting friendships at this point, nor at the next 3 area moves I experienced. For one, everything seemed to be transitional. We were constantly being moved about. Also, the rumor still persisted that we eventually transfer to Lackland. Rather than frustrate myself with matters out of my control, I decided to take it easy and enjoy the beautiful surroundings all about me. The cadre that was supposedly training us well, all regular Army, just back from the tour of duty in the Pacific. They were all non-coms, buck sergeants, staff technical, and master sergeants, with no officers present in any of our training session. Most of the non-coms were in their 20s and mid-30s and in excellent physical shape. I could attest to the fact, since they were double timing us for long periods of time, several times during our training period for an infraction or dereliction of duty to our assigned task, they would have us double time at high port, an M1 rifle held over our heads with both arms several times around the drill field. This was no mere task at high noon, with a blazing Texas sun overhead. They were all personable and efficient in their duties, but I got a feeling that they were not training us as part of their team. We're not going to be a cohesive unit with them as our leaders. It did not seem possible. Staff Sergeant Harrington Staff Sergeant Harrington was our platoon sergeant, a very professional soldier to say the least, but aloof of most of the time with us. During the various instructional functions, he would converse with us quite naturally, but on a 10-minute break, he would return to the other platoon sergeants. They would take their breaks together in their private little group. It affected the other members of the platoon as well as me, as we would discuss it amongst ourselves. Trying to fathom why they were displaying this unorthodox behavior, one of the many things I learned about the Army in the short time I've been in was that a true leader looked out first for the men he was responsible for. That was his prime concern. We were not getting this display of leadership from our sergeants.
What day?
You weren't getting a display of leadership from your sergeants in San Antonio. The only conclusion we would arrive at is this perceived us being temporary, and there is no sense in the building among us, as we would be gone in several weeks. Also, is a possibility that some thought that they viewed us as future Air Corps and did not want any part of us. This again reinforced the Lackland rumor. The training, or lack of training, evolved into a routine day-by-day ritual. Reveille, breakfast, PT, lectures, close order drill, and finally retreat. Since I had some free time at dinner and before lights out, I took the opportunity to write Mother and Sally. At this point in time, I have not received any mail from home, nor had I contacted with them by phone. I decided to call them the next day. As I reviewed my present situation and took stock of where I was literally, I came to realization that was the farthest I've been away from home in my entire life. It was over 2,000 miles away, and there was a 1-hour time difference. It was beginning to get confused with the hour lag in time, since I would daydream at times and wonder what I'd be doing at home at this particular time. I had been away from home a little over 2 months and not seen a familiar face all this time. I was not homesick as such, but I was greatly preoccupied with how Mother and Sally were doing at home. Although it was a warm and sunny day, it was in the middle of winter there, and I gave it much thought. There were several shipping lists posted on our bulletin board, but they did not involve any people like us, the ones at Upton, were 30 or 40 people affected. They were mostly specialty groups like the ones going to Laughlin Air Force Base to Defense Language Center. They would become interpreters and instructors in various languages, mostly German and Japanese. As the military police detachment, we began to pull guard duty around the quadrangle at the 4th Army Headquarters and at the post stockade. We also pulled some roving Jeep patrol units in San Antonio and always rode with an experienced non-com. We would be in immediate trouble rather quickly. The roving patrols involved a magnitude of complex duties. We would primarily get law and order in the city among the civilians and military, and we would check the various bars and nightclubs for any disorder, so as to see that military people were behaving themselves and they were not. And they were off the streets after curfew, which is 2,300 hours. We also checked passes to see if they were in order.
Think what?
You also check passes when you're military police to see if they were in order. Noted a proper uniform while in pass and assisted the military in any way we can to make their stay in San Antonio pleasant and safe. The guard duty at the quadrangle and stockade were routine and uneventful. I did not relish being awakened at 0200 hours to stand guard duty until 6 a.m. The only consoling factor was that I was off the next 24 hours. This meant no reveille, drilling, no marching, and no double timing. Whenever I would receive this 24-hour from duty reprieve, I would catch up with my letter writing home and maybe make a phone call to see what was going on back there. I especially liked this off-duty time as it afforded me the opportunity to visit San Antonio. San Antonio was a cradle of the Texas Liberty, which was the birthplace of Theodore Roosevelt of the Rough Riders. It was also the deathbed of heroes like Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, William Travis, and James Bunham. San Antonio was a mission city to devote Mexicans and Franciscan missionaries. The area was won by the Mexicans from the Spanish during the Mexican Revolution in 1821 in the Battle of the Alamo. 180 defenders valiantly fought to the death against 5,000-man army of General Antonio Lopez de Santa. Military aspects of San Antonio continued with the establishment of the Republic of Texas. On my visit to San Antonio, it was only a matter of crossing the quadrangle than the San Antonio River. The river made 15-mile horseshoe loop from the 6 miles of downtown city blocks, which represents the beauty of romance of San Antonio. Most of the downtown sections were built before 1930, and the architecture, as it was with Fort, represents the Alamo-style roof lines mixed with the ornamented buildings and cream-colored stucco, which are familiar red tiled roofs. I can recall walk around the Riverwalk area with its many ships.
Texas?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, San Antonio.
Yeah, San
I can-
Antonio, Texas, yeah.
I can recall walking around the Riverwalk area with as many ships and restaurants coming to Market Square, which
Yeah.
featured a Mexican pavilion, which is tiny restaurants and eateries. Along Market Square were the Herzenberg Circus Collection and the Circus Museum, which contain a wealth of circus memorabilia, including painting, photos, circus personalities, and a miniature circus. On the river itself, you can enjoy riding a river train or a paddle wheel, and even some of the boats and barges that traverse the river. Following the downtown loop was the river provided with an excellent way to obtain the city to its entirety. The Paseo del Rio Riverwalk followed the riverbank, where I enjoyed my first horseback ride.